Hi, I'm Seamless, and today is Thursday, which means it's time for, well, it means yesterday it was time for a new viewer track review video, and it's not even close. If you'd like to have one of your songs featured in one of these videos, what you do is you head on over to the Discord channel, and you submit your stuff in the channel for the thing for the submissions. It's labeled. There's also a rules channel, and the mods will be around to help you out, just in case your files name something that might be difficult for me to, like, I don't know which one's the artist name, or what's the song name, or maybe you rendered it too quiet. That's been happening a lot lately. Anyway, let's get down to business. The first one we have up is Extronox BinariX feat Dope Dod or Dope DOD. I don't actually know. And the song is called Abyss. Yes. Okay. Let's have a look-see, shall we, at this track. Do. Notate when I start. Actually.
Run this town and I need to gun them down. We got that thumping sound that'll make them jump and shout. What the fuck you want right now? Better watch your goddamn mouth. Better cut that bullshit out in the name of subs and clout. Take a look at slow your roll. Why should you sell your soul? We're the ones that have control. Shrug with their shoulders cold to a place where no one goes, where the root of evil grows, but the face of greed will show. Is the truth that people know. So
it just stops. I guess a whip. It feels whippy. I mean, it doesn't have to be a whip. This could actually, like, let's talk about the like requirements of a song, right? Like, this is a weird track to take it as an example. And no, I don't care about swearing. I have never cared about swearing. I don't know if that mattered in this one though, because what I had noticed when I first played this track was that around then was almost exactly 1 minute in the song, or into the video rather. So that actually might mean I meet the requirement for that, but on the other hand, I'm not monetizing these videos, so whatever that. On the other hand, I have been told by people, the students and whatnot, people I've met, that they've found my videos and have been learning about production from a startlingly young age. And I never have portrayed my channel to be for children, but you know, there's a little bit of just reality responsibility for that, so maybe I should care. But on the other hand, I kind of, how many hands is that now? It's a lot of hands, but on some more hands, I just don't want to change. It's just that. And the consequences aren't that epic. Anyway, speaking of epic, this track is pretty epic. This progression is great. It reminds me a bit of some Dirty Phonicsy sounding, sort of like that kind of leady drum and bass stuff, but this stuff instead. So timing is interesting, isn't it? Like this sort of the construction of a hardstyle kick is a very time-based thing, where yeah, it's tuned. You can very clearly see that it is, but like there's a main bit that's not, and then there's a bit that is, and it's a deconstruction of such epic distortion of an original kick to get a particular result that you can then be in control of, and it's honestly the kind of sound design I love, because it's so. And like it's engineered for like an unimaginably specific goal, like because it's not even about like the genre has nothing to do with the result. It's about the thing you're using. It's how much more stuff can they get out of this texture, and that's why they go so far and do it like for 10 million hours and whatever, and how that's basically the judge of the work that goes into it, because it's not really about the fact that yeah, you can get a comparable result by doing less steps, more targeted, elegant, and whatever. But like they've done that. It's been done. That has to have been done, and that's why everything is going so hard up, above and beyond in these kinds of genres. And it's hard to get that if you don't try. Having tried, I get now, why it's portrayed that way in terms of like an epic sound design required sort of focused journey, not just for being a difficulty of mixing either. Like mixing these things in such a way that like feels right, but also isn't just in some way like overpowered. Although I will say, this track is peaking like all day. It peaks like all the time, but it might as well be a weaponized tactic to make a track like this louder. Because as you can see by the sausage, like it's sort of the point. Anyway, but the timing is a bit difficult because the transient nature of these kicks is such that these are usually the same length. But in a sampled universe, that means when you play a higher note, things happen faster, but they don't in this example. And that's why when these high notes happen, I'm going to play it again. It kind of feels like an offbeat, off-time thing, but then these low notes happen. I'm going to play it again. It's actually great. Like a great timing. And it just has to do with the time of oscillation that the sub occurs in that you can tell is different in contrast to a thing that's the same length otherwise. And it's just that there's more of this happening faster, but this is still the same length, and it's different, even though it's the literal same length of literal time. Isn't that something? It's just a difficulty you got to work with in dealing with this kind of thing, and like that's like a whole other reason why the sound design is quite impressive in general. Like just to interact with that many valuable variables, valuable in the sense that like they matter. They have that kind of impact on stuff. Your decisions have ripples, like they tried to do in Mass Effect. And you can't. All right, so good job all together. I guess it's all officially. Like I was wondering earlier about like yeah, sure, finish it, cool, but like for what, why? Like it could have an outro, it could fit the things, but that like the only reason we consider that is for the purpose of listening to it by itself, with the assumption that we want to hear it begin and hear it end, and then that's how we are essentially doing like the automatic DJing when we have playlists and stuff. But if it's actually made for like a piece of something, then this contains all the things. It has literally all of the song in it, unless there's a bridge that's something different. And that's interesting, because from like a formed listening experience perspective, only the context of consumption matters in terms of the choices there, and we have very varied options there these days, and it makes it interesting to see like because like how much do I care that nothing happens here? I'm assuming it's a whip, and I'm assuming there's more to come, but you can turn this into like an 11-minute super epic if you felt like it. And if the content can sustain that and it feels like a worthwhile thing, sure. But like I'm always about not necessarily doing that if thing doesn't necessarily need to do that. Big long discussion about nothing. Okay, next track is from Sergey Lopin, Distracted. Yeah, app's title. Okay. Starting at the start. Where are you, starter? There you are. Notating when we beginning. Here it comes. That was a fun outro. Just kind of letting that one pattern go. So here's some fun. Pendulum put out music recently. And if I were keeping up with that whole idea of having like a reference track per thing, what I would have played today would have been the track Driver that was released. It's a wonderful example of not just like a pendulum song, but of like maximum sort of pressure mixing, where you want impact on the things that have noticeable presence. And like I'm using those words like we are calibrated on the same idea of what that means. We're talking about literally like being able to tell they exist. That like there is an object here on top of or beneath or around something else that's happening at once, because the thing that's happening is super loud. And to be able to perceive that anything else is there means making room for it. And the sort of the alchemical magic of it all is doing this sort of mixing sleight of hand where it seems like something that has a kind of power is there, but really what it is something actually very tailored and very light that when played in concert with all of this extra power sounds like what it feels like when there is something that is that powerful just farther away because there's this other thing in front of you. It's a big old magic trick. It's super cool. And this track does that pretty good. It's got the stuff. It has basically the kit. It's not like Pendulum invented the drum and bass, but the whole point of that like sort of sleight of hand is that like we're not using necessarily real instruments, but we're using sort of their effect more, like the way that they made a thing feel than we are actually putting the thing in there to make it happen. We'll just play a bit for the main example. So like there's hats in there, right? They're definitely in there. They're playing a pattern. They're a pattern way. And there you can see them happening. Like there it is. It's happening. And on top of that is there's the snare bit and there's this kind of white noise burst. And that white noise burst has to compete with multiple things, but not murder them. And the things that it competes with isn't just the hats, but also the white noise-ish texture from the synth that's playing. Like the top end of that stuff. And every once in a while, the top end of the kick too. Like these are the things, the layers of the cake that are forming what we're making, and they can't all be real. And this is a wonderful example of it all. Like we're looking at this as a job well done, just so we know. And the sort of ultimate job well done is that track Driver, just to give you an example of a comparison. Because the sort of the value of having done that then is that you have a lot of room now to pull up other stuff. Like if we're not trying so hard to make the fact that there are hats being played like an ultra present thing. And that's true for everything that's not like the main thing. The main, whatever element that's happening. It could be the bass, it could be these chords, it could be the both stack at once, like the drums themselves. All that's traditionally mixed with, good side chaining and cutting and making plans and that kind of thing. It's all very good. It's all done the job. But then, but we want to have more stuff. We want to have more things. And if we can't actually have more things, then we can make it feel like there's more things. And the more we can sort of pull that off, the more we were sort of achieving. And that's what makes these sort of mixing, like high pressure, loud mixing, difficult, because it's mostly all just that. Like it isn't really about doing the real thing and then paring it down until it sounds like it's right. It's about constructing something else completely so that it adds up to sounding what it would almost feel like with the real thing, because the real thing can't. But yes, good job all around here. Up next, we have Bass Machines by Ghost Asset. Ooh. It's kind of like a cat or fox or something. I guess it looks foxy, right? It looks kind of like the logo from Metal Gear. Okay. Here we go. weep, weep. Yeah. Cool. This is a dope track with a dope bass in it. I kind of liked the main thing, which is good because it's where all there was kind of the whole time. And it was enough, I guess. I guess because I would be fine with this, but I a lot of the times when I have done things like this, the principal complaint was that it was not, you know, engaging enough. But this is also a fun example of what we were just talking about in terms of going for it for real, as opposed to kind of being sort of fake touch about it. Like this is sort of like the hats are like real all the way and huge and loud and present and on top of things, and everything's like the same kind of up there level. And like much like we talk about the plateaus a lot, about like there being visible, definable differences in level from what there is. And that's how you know, that's how you can tell them apart, like in space and time. And doing it seems like the task would be to just have it all on up there and for real, and then just kind of snip it down and mix it until it feels kind of together. But problem with that is that a lot of that original power, like an element like the snare that has actual high frequency kind of like a presence, that's a character, a really like kind of dense and complex one. That isn't just a light white noise burst. And it makes it complicated enough that when assaulted with the rest of this stuff, like it's a competition of a lot of things that have points. A lot of points are being made. And if we go like listen to that driver track, the pendulum driver track, what you'll see is that those elements are all there, but they're not making points. They're just kind of there to let the main point be. So like this main thing doing its thing, like it's harder to pay attention to when everything else has its own like really definable character, and that may or may not be like a goal. Like this is not that comparable to a pendulum track in the sense that the pendulum's not really trying to be this complicated, but a more comparison would be more like a Billin or a modern anything that's coming up on the like the Modern Vision channel. If you look at the people who are put up tracks up there, most of them are not this loud. They're not even close to trying to be this loud. And it's mostly because they are doing the real thing. And everything does have character. And everything does have a point. So they're living in the maximum universe of what that can be. And still be expressed that way. And it is less than like something what a pendulum track can be. Because the pendulum track is constructed in such a way to put forward the whole thing in like a kind of unified force. And everything is really lockstep perfect, like to that as a goal, to the point where that's not how it can come out that way. In regards to making sure that like there's not a lot of overlapping disparate nonsense, because all the nonsense is just boiled down to basically a white noise layer, and that's not enough. And that's just sidechained correctly. Like that's just pretty much how it comes across. Up next we have Zoovy Grilean, I guess, by Traffic Cone. Here we go with this. What? Okay.
Time flies like an arrow. Fruit flies like banana. Time is wasted. Only good time. Inevitably, all good time. Yes, I've seen your death. It was painful.
Bowling good time.
Neat. This sounds like if Savant wrote a track that Will Smith was going to rap on. And none of that was a dig. This is nice. I dig the groove a lot. I like the sound design. I like all the placements. This is also another wonderful example of a kit of drums that sounds full and diverse, but it's three things. And like they're so very nicely on top. And like this is a busy thing. There's a lot of crap happening, and I mean like this. They have to be different from each other. They have to be there for it, and then but not. And then the things that aren't. Look at how that dark, right? Like it's a bit of a presence there like they're doing a filter there, but still, it fits. It's very nice. This is an example of not necessarily the highest pressure mixing, but it gets there. It's honestly pretty good in a lot of ways. But yeah, coming up after this, we have Johnny Be Cool with Together. Johnny Be Cool, y'all.
Again, baby, feel so good, feel so good, feel so fine. Follow in your arms again, baby, follow in your arms again. Follow in your arms again. Feel so good, feel so good, feel so fine. Follow in your arms again. Follow in your arms again. again.
Another super dope track. This one really went in, and I liked all of the sounds. Every one of them was just like very good choices for if it were for me. This is just like the chillest loud version of something. Like, it's such a weird crossover because it's like that too high to be a really chill track, but it's also just too chill to be like really hard, which is it's fun territory for me because this would be something I would consider like a lo-fi version of what I like, but actual lo-fi has interesting like advantages for being the fact that it's actual easy listening. Like, it doesn't demand your attention so much. It's a bit like a bland TV show that lets you watch it 1,000 times in a row because you were not paying attention for the majority of it. And that means that like you can just kind of come in and out and find something new all the time until you see it 1,000 times. Now you finally have all of it in your head. Versus a show that's like really deep and hard and forward and distracting and like shocking and all of this stuff that if you don't look at for a second, you're lost and you have to go back. And you have all of it in your head the first time you saw it. And that's like the harder versions of tracks like these, like you can't not be paying attention, which is when the things start to become like too long. Which when like a thing becomes kind of complex, interesting, and forward, and then now you're looking at it a lot, and then after you see it happen a few times, you're not going away. You're not gonna go just kind of look at other stuff now. Like, it's still too interesting. It's still too like gripping. So you're just gonna wait for it to do something else, and then now you're like making it older faster by making it that interesting, and or by not varying enough, because then that's the next sort of step is that like now you got to be even more complicated. It's a bit like approaching the speed of light, where you have to approach infinite mass and other junk. But as far as like my own sensibilities, I wouldn't change a thing about this. But it could probably stand to have just a little bit of extra like motion in the progression. Also, so this track definitely felt like the do a lot of things and smoosh them together plan, which has like awesome merits. Like, it's obviously worked out pretty well. Like, this is pretty dandy. But the way you can sort of tell when a thing is like that is because it's not terribly, it doesn't feel consistent. It's very content dependent that there's a tone, that the thing really feels away when all the stuff is away. And then when that stuff's not that way, the other stuff that comes in because the stuff was getting blown away, like it's the effect, it's called pumping and compression. And it's not the same thing as what ducking does, but it is similar because it's the idea that like a thing comes in hard and as a result, it brings whatever thing that wasn't that loud down, and that makes it seem quieter and loses power. When in reality, what the human brain wants when we like hear a thing and get used to a thing, we want the next thing that comes in to kind of be also that without really adjusting it, which isn't possible, of course, but we can make it seem that way, and or like we get this sort of like together up approach where we did that, but only but we're really calibrated to a specific energy like use case, which and any other time you're not that, like the mix is essentially different. And the job when you're in this position is to like do what this sort of does, which is make it like it's true it's going to be different, but it'll be at a level, an average, an acceptable like sort of deviation, and it won't be all that shocking, and that's great. And this works out. Which is 100% different from how it works with the driver track from Pendulum. We were discussing the sort of like planned fakery, where we don't go so in depth with how cool our percussion is, and we don't go so in depth with like how loud the like air is moving. The stuff like if we were to look at the Pendulum track in here, we would see like repetitive like paper, like the Art Deco version of this. Like a very, very like solid tonal, like very purposeful layout. And then the thing that is moving will be the one thing that moves. And that is essentially how it can survive like that. And then when when any new thing comes in, it feels exactly the same as a second ago at every level all the time. And that's more easily done with that approach, if that were our goal. I'm assuming a lot of things about a lot of things, but this track came out nicely regardless. That's like it's slow enough that the sub doesn't have to be something so like uniform, but it could be. Just in general, you probably know that. Or like you might be a case of me where you might not have actually heard the right environment where these, like, the difference with, like, because I actually A and B'd my stuff once upon a time. It was like, here's the same song without a separate sub, and here's the same song with a separate sub. Is it better? I literally can't tell, so that's how I know no. But it was a lot more easy to tell when I had an actual, like, the actual bass response, which I could have had in my own, you know, environment if I thought I had enough to do that kind of thing. But point is you might not care, but you might. Good job otherwise. Coming up next, we have Momentum from RMC. Yeah. Okay, this looks fun. Let's have a go.
I see sunlight shining down. It's lighting up around this path to victory, so that now we lift always. We will not give in, and we will not back down, oh no. Knowing there's a reason to why, yeah, there's a reason to why we are fighting on. Everybody's feeling alright, all people holding on tight. Good vibrations are in the air and shine on, cause the sun is there. And knowing there's a reason to why, yeah, there's a reason to why we are all moving to the sound. And we're not flying, we've just landed. Hey, we're moving positively, this is the day. Success is a guarantee, and on the way we try our best, and with victory we'll sing our song. We keep momentum and move along. There's not much we should fear, as long as hope is here. There's strength flowing to us from inside our hearts. We will not back down, and we will not give in, oh no. Knowing there's a reason to why, yeah, there's a reason to why we are fighting on. Everybody's feeling alright, all people holding on tight. Good vibrations are in the air and shine on, cause the sun is there. And knowing there's a reason to why, yeah, there's a reason to why we are all moving to the sound. And we're not flying, we've just landed. Hey, we're moving positively, this is the day. Success is a guarantee, and on the way we try our best, and with victory we'll sing our song. We keep momentum and move along. Hey, we're moving positively, this is the day. Success is a guarantee, and on the way we try our best, and with victory we'll sing our song. We keep momentum and move along.
Oh, that was violently happy. Wow. Just that alone about it. Wow. What was that about the Hulk?
Momentum and move away. Moving to the sound, and we're not flying, we just land. Is there, and knowing there's a vibrations are in the air and shine on, cause the sun is there. And knowing there's a reason to.
Okay, because the sun is there. That might have been the line I thought I heard the Lions say, that we're fine because the Hulk is there. And then I started to think that this song was actually a song about what it's like to be a cell in the Hulk when it's energized by gamma radiation and everyone's all happy and great moving on. And we all have momentum because you literally can't stop. And the Hulk is that kind of strong. And there's probably a reason he's super pissed off. That would be pretty meta. That's probably not the point. That's probably just a super happy song. And damn, it's nice and tight. It isn't distorting. The voice is clean and tuned right, and not like grating and annoying. That rhymed. And this it's pretty spot on. Like, the most impressive thing about this is how happy the lyrics are. Like, it's not even that hard to make happy music. It's mostly just about doing the same things we do in minor keys and major keys. And it's usually my primary experience with music that sounds as happy is almost entirely parody. It's very rare that I actually listen to like an on point, like, let's try and be cheerful kind of thing. So that was neat. Coming up next, we have Titan ID from Renshiro. Let's see how positive this is. Whee! that was definitely a bunch of notes in that scale. The rest of this was really cool. Like, I could honestly take or leave this entire melodic concept, but this whole main thing is awesome. It's okay. Actually, well, this part is great, and I get that a groove is good. Like the groove hanging on and doing its deal was nice, but like we need more than those variations. We need the beauty of doing something this slow and on like this, like say on the beat kind of thing, is that like when you do just do minor adjustments to the timing, they're huge. They come across as massive alterations, so you don't have to do massive alterations. Having just done it again is viable, but it could have been just a little bit special, but without much effort more. Or it could have just been one of these long. Like, it didn't need to be this twice. If it didn't need, if this was enough of it the first time, it didn't why it need to be this long? It's one of those format questions, and like I guess the right answer is just to make the big one so that people can choose how they want to handle it. Because if it is going to be in the mix, then they'll play the first half and move on, and not necessarily hang around for the 11 minutes. That wasn't 11 minutes, but you know what I mean. Yeah. Decently done, decently mixed. Like, it's got a pressure and a texture, and I say that like it's difficult to guess at these things because I don't know what people's goals are. I mostly say like functional in the sense that like I've heard things like this, and this is a good example of it. Well, for all I know, they were trying to write a book. Yeah. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and all that good stuff. And as usual, have a nice day.